Islam, 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 and welcome to Moore's Heritage and History School. This is your host, Anna-Ida L., along with my co-host. I only surprised Mariah B. Bay right now.
I'm there.
Let's see, Ms. Let's see, wait. Ms. Raheem Olive L.
Peace and love, Anna-E. Peace and love, man. Oh yeah, that was my fault. I wasn't on cue, but I'm thankful to be here, for sure.
And looking for Cujo, Eyes Wide Open. Where are you? Where are you? Okay, while I'm waiting for Cujo, there are people already with their hands raised in the queue. I need you to press 1 on your telephone dial right now so that you can come out of the queue. Caller 571-225, 571-225. I need you to press 1 on your telephone. Caller 352-281, 352-28, and all right. Great. Thank you so much. And I'm still looking for Cujo. Where are you, Cujo? Let's see. All right. Well, while I'm waiting for Cujo, because, you know, we can't, this particular show we can't have without Cujo.
No, we can't.
True.
All right.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Annie?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
You skipped over me. I didn't get a chance to say peace and love. Peace and love.
You said something.
I thought you said you couldn't find me because I had forgot to push 1. I thought you said you couldn't find me, but peace and love to everyone. Are you sure Cujo didn't email that he's not having a problem getting in?
He is having a bit of a challenge getting in, and I'm trying to tell him, come on and call in right now, Cujo.
You might have to
call him. While I'm waiting for Cujo to call in. Oh, wait. I don't know if he's listening. All right, well,
why don't you call him?
You want me to call Cujo? How would I do that?
Conference him in on the thing. He may not be able to do it. He may be having trouble getting in.
All right, you know what? I'm just going to continue. Wait a minute. I'm just going to continue until I see him appear, because you know we got our usual roll call to do and our usual acknowledgments, or I should say greetings. So let me do that while I try and wait for Cujo to come on. Where are you, Cujo? Can somebody text him, please?
Yeah, I did. Somebody said that we reached the limit on the phone already. You know, that's probably what it is.
That's why we're going to have no conference.
You didn't. There's a few spots that he can call in.
That's like playing Russian roulette.
I text him and told him to call in right now. So while I'm waiting for Cujo to call in, but there's wait. Somebody just called in.
That's like playing Russian roulette.
Well, well, while I'm waiting for Cujo to call in, because he hasn't called in and we got a few open lines.
Well,
Call now, Cujo. Call now.
Probably.
Yeah, he said he's trying.
Gonna call.
That's like playing Russian roulette. Trust me, he might not get in.
No, I think he's having some challenges with his telephone. That's probably what it is. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to continue until I see him appear. He's doing something. All right. So first of all, I want to send a big shout out to our internet listeners. The chat room is open. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see everybody is in the chat room. I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for holding us down in the chat room. You guys make sure that everybody is on point and you know, not in there talking foolishness. Thank you so much for holding it down. And here we got Cujo.
All right.
Cujo.
Islam.
All right.
Yeah, we made it happen. Give thanks to Sister Tashibi for setting it up. Somebody has to get through.
All right. Peace and love. Because there were a few lines. I don't know what was going on. There was a few lines. It
was saying full. They had their little guy coming on. The show is full. Thank you.
All right. Well, the gang is all here, so let's get it started. Thank you, Islam, to our Moors in the chat room holding it down. I just want to say that when people do come into the chat room and they are incorrect, don't slam them too hard. Don't slam them too hard. But, hey, peace and love, and thank you so much for making sure everybody is right and correct and proper in the chat room. Big shout out to our internet listeners listening over in South Africa, Great Britain, Japan, the Netherlands, the Philippines, Mexico, Cuba, Brazil, Venezuela, and to areas that we have yet to connect to. And I just want to say, even though we're calling out corporations, you know, I should say near South Africa, Great Britain, Japan, the Netherlands, Philippines, Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, and Brazil, because all of those are corporations. So we ain't in those corporations, but some of us are near them. So Islam to the family listening near those areas. Big shout out to our callers for calling in every week, filling up the call the call lines before the show even starts. Islam, all right? I'm trying to tell you, if you want to get it up on the Moors Heritage and History School and lend your comments and your energy, you got to call in before the show starts. All right, so let me do our public announcement. Every Tuesday we do a public announcement, and we, acknowledge and make a public record of those Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of the various corporations disguised as government, going by the name of Cork County. Now, the majority of people do not know that a county is, in fact, a corporation. It is not government at all. And the feds, as well as the union states, are letting everybody know they ain't a part of our agencies in one way or another. So it is absolutely time for the Moors and for those other citizens to wake up, join together, and put these people out of business because they're not producing a product or a service. And they have, in fact, made the people their means of generating revenue, which is human trafficking. Now, say this, there are Moors, unconscious or conscious, who just don't care. They think that, oh, well, I'm going to beat this fraudulent system. But, fortunately for them, you got active Moors out there that's gonna make it happen, so they benefit one way or another. And if they don't, I guess the next generation will benefit because of the work that those active Moors are effectuating yesterday, and we are seeing the effects of it today. But in the meantime, we got Moors that are being held hostage. So we start out with our sister, Abkare Bey, who was kidnapped through a joint venture between the Memphis and the Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee. We have Daoud Ill under the purview of Arkansas. Now we say under the purview of the Union State because they are obligated to protect all people from foreign and domestic invasion. And if we don't have the corporation, the county corporation, then we just list or, we just acknowledge or enlist the Union State that is obligated, bound and obligated at that. So we have Daoud Ill under the purview of Arkansas. We have Amir Moses Ill and Kusu Rakush Bey under the purview of Missouri. Athar Patan Amin Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio. Jeremy Taylor Ill, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McKell Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Ill, Kushamir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yasin Talik Alamin Ill, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina. Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey. Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer Freehold and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Teron Fisher Ill, Marquis Sevion Ill under the purview of Indiana. Solomon Ill Bay and Mumi Abu Bay under the purview of Texas. William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia. Bomani Abidwil Ill, kidnapped by Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia. Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia. Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California. Victor Eduardo of Valle Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia. Patricia Bay and her infant baby, as well as Malik Ill Bay, all kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Those are Moors who have been kidnapped. They're being held hostage for income. That is human trafficking. Anywhere you slice and dice it, it is human trafficking. And we all, especially, all Moors have to wake up to the fact that these are corporations. They're kidnapping us. They're kidnapping our family. They're kidnapping our babies. It is past time for us to wake up and start enforcing the supreme law of this land, the American Constitution, which brings us to our subject matter of today, the 19th of January, 2000. I hate to say 2015 because in actuality it's really not 2016, but from a fiscal calendar year 2016, Moorish calendar, we still on 1435 until March 21st. Today's broadcast is entitled, Did You Just Get Played? We can't say it enough. Study, study, study. If you don't, you may find yourself in a situation where you are being played. If you don't know what jurisdiction is, nor nationality, you will run around saying you are a sovereign. If you study, as Prophet Elder Drelly strongly advised you to do, you would know that sovereignty is simply asking, how are you tied to the land? Nationality comes from your mother, therefore, no one need acknowledge that which is. And jurisdiction means you are speaking the right word. It is because of lack of information, which can only be due to lack of study, that Moors today will get played. My people suffer for lack of knowledge. Wake up, you sleepy-headed Moors. And, you know, I hate to say it, and you know what, I'm not going to.
Just to quickly interject. Wake up, you sleepy-headed Moors. You sleep too much. Can't forget that part.
That's right. You sleep too much. Yes, that's right. That's right. You know, you're absolutely correct. You see, because if you are active more, you don't sleep. You rest, as Sister Cynthia always says. And I can tell you, the Moors that I know ain't got time to sleep. we barely have time to rest. Because it's just too much. It's too much to study. It's too much to discover. It's too much to look into. It's too much to check out. You know, it's just too much. You ain't got time to sleep. So the conversation today, or this particular subject matter, you know, last week we said so much stuff is popping off. So much stuff is popping off. And it ain't just with the modern Europeans that stuff is popping off. It is us where things are popping off. You know, there's a reason the prophet said, study, study, study. You know, because if you don't study, not only will you get played by modern Europeans, you will get played by your own unconscious brethren. Now, it's one thing. It's one thing for you to encounter unconscious Moors. But as the prophets say, if you come and talk in an intelligent tone, you know, as you go out on my word on the hedges and highways, meaning in your day-to-day activity, just, you know, traveling, moving about, doing what you do, you just might, in an intelligent tone, wake up your unconscious brothers and sisters. But if your behind is not studying, you will go out and you will view so much foolery that your own brethren and sisters that are unconscious will take you and make a joke of you to the world. Not that that matters. But what does matter is this. Don't go out there running your damn mouth and you ain't did no studying. And then you want to talk about you ain't got no jurisdiction over me, all the while talking the wrong words because you didn't take the time to look up what jurisdiction means, which is speaking with the right words. I mean, come on. I'm not embarrassed. Because I understand, you know, we all are under a mental conditioning. I'm not embarrassed. I'm just, you know, look, I look at it like this. If you ever saw The 5 Heartbeats, if you ever watched the movie The 5 Heartbeats, the two brothers was on stage tearing each other apart, fighting like little boys fight. And the older brother started cracking up and saying, you know, I just gotta teach them how to channel all that energy. So this is what we're attempting to do. We're trying to teach you how to channel all that energy so it can be productive. Because speaking out of jurisdiction, meaning with the wrong words, will, you know, hey, look, you got to recognize that you, in your activity, you are representing the family as a nation. So you better sit down and study. Don't go out there representing the family and you all up in the wrong words, wrong jurisdiction. Now, it's 2 issues going on here that demonstrates the lack of studying that is going on. And I'm not going to be saying no names, but I have made some notes about the things I heard in one situation in particular, and it was by, just on observation, just a simple visual analysis. I saw an unconscious sister in the wrong camp having a conversation about the Moors with some appearing to be unconscious Moors. Why do unconscious Moors want to have conversations about Moors and they don't even want to study and get information so they can have an intelligent conversation? I don't get that.
That's all.
I'm not interested in the Moors. Why are you talking about them? And if you want to talk about them, why don't you go get factual information? Do a little studying. Don't sit there and ask stupid, irrelevant questions that ain't got jack to do with the Moors. But on observation, what I saw was an unconscious sister, which was a clear example of fallen humanity. This sister didn't even know herself, and she was hee-hee-ha-ha-ing about her ancestors, her lineage, that she ain't got no knowledge of. Hence, who's fallen humanity? She is fallen humanity. So I saw fallen humanity put on blast. I saw fallen humanity put on blast by the sun. Then I'm not bashing the sons. I'm just telling you what I saw. Then as I listened, this is the Asiatic sister. Everybody that was speaking, they sounded to be Asiatic. Now, what really troubled me about this, the same. These brothers, they will get out and they will do this, video production, and they're stroking their own ego. Meanwhile, they're demonstrating to the whole world, because they put that on the World Wide Web. Everybody around the world is watching that. And now, because they got 3 million hits, they think, oh, that's a great thing. But what you don't see is you got 3 million hits of people around the globe who's watching a family. All of you is Asiatic. Y'all don't even know your family. And y'all fighting each other. Oh, I'm working on the wrong team. Hee hee ha ha. Well, what you got to say about the Moors? Wrong team person. Hee hee ha ha. I'm over here with the Moorish Science Temple. Hee hee ha ha. I'm with the gods of the earth. Hee hee ha. I don't care who you are affiliated with. You are all one family. And when you get into a public arena and you start demonstrating to the whole wide world that y'all don't even know because you look like you all look alike. Y'all didn't figure out that y'all are family, and then to add insult to injury. This was the video I was watching. As I'm watching our family who don't know that they are family talking about family, a commercial popped up. And it was the commercial said, having trouble with your family, having trouble with your family, and the picture was all Asiatic people. Then it said, come talk to our family, all modern Europeans. I was like, did I just get played? Did I just play it? Because they had to have known I was watching this particular video that demonstrated that the Asiatic people don't know their family, all on the World Wide Web, demonstrating, yeah, we look alike, but we're not family. Stupid. So now, okay, well, since y'all got a family problem, why don't y'all come talk to us, the modern Europeans? Did we just get played? So after that, I had to go take a little break, but then I came back and I was watching this video and I had to take some notes. And this is what I found. This, you know, it sounds like there's some debate that's coming up, another debate. And this time, they put the sister front and center, which says to me, okay, you didn't know that she's for humanity? You don't know that this whole war is about taking Mother down? And so now you're going to put Mother front and center? Don't even pull her coattail about her nationality? But you're going to make a joke out of it. Put it out on the World Wide Web. I got a problem with that. Then it's alleged that this discussion was with a lawyer. Now, a lawyer is one who is versed in the law. Speaking about statutes, ordinances, and codes are not, these things are not discussed by a lawyer, a proper lawyer, nor are they law. A lawyer on this land, a lawyer can only be an Aboriginal or indigenous being, all right? That a lawyer is a layman, and that is someone who is versed in law. But this particular individual, Asiatic, claiming attorney, all right, that they're not talking about law, and so therefore they cannot be a lawyer, all right? There's a presumption that one status is being, there's a presumption that there was a status being corrected. And because the whole discussion was about, does this nationality, does this status correction really work? I was like, what are you talking about? Somebody correct? Well, it's not necessarily a correcting of nationality. It is a declaring and proclaiming. The damn document says it's a public notice. It ain't asking nothing, but I will say this. As uninformed as this Asiatic sister was, some of the things she was saying was absolutely on point. Because she said, they asked the question, do you see the brothers coming in there wearing their feathers? And she starts ha, and yeah, they be coming in there, and they take like sometimes 20 minutes, and they talking about their national origin, and, you know, their family history and all of this stuff, and then the judge just sits there and lets them talk, and then when they're done, the judge says, are you finished? And when they say, yes, I am, the judge says, good, motion denied. Now, let me just say this. She's right. She says, y'all say that these courts don't have jurisdiction, but you're always coming up into the courts with your paperwork, and these are the same courts that you say don't have jurisdiction. She's right. But there's a qualification there. Then she says something about, and they come up there with their paperwork, and they're not even filing it properly because it has to be on motion, and you have to file it first with the DA. I was like, well, what the hell is going on? What is going on? What is the reason that a Moor would go into a county, a meeting room or a building called a court to have a discussion with a bunch of employees of a corporation, you know, and this DA, there's nothing, a district attorney, there's no district attorney in the American Constitution, so that sounds like some English law bull crap. But why would you be going into a building called a court to have a discussion with a district attorney? Now, she says that she alleges that the reason that the Moors is doing this is because they want the court to recognize their status correction. This is what the sister is saying, okay? They asked her opinion. Now, here's the thing. You going to ask an unconscious person their opinion about a supposed process that even I don't know about. I don't know nothing about no status correction that goes to no county corporation, so no district attorney can review it and make a decision on motion. I don't know nothing about that. Our publications don't say nothing about that. I have never had a conversation. I ain't never told nobody to do that. I don't know where that comes from. But I'll say this, if there are Moors out there doing that, you need to sit your behind down and study. Check yourself. Because you are making a mockery of the Moorish nation if you're out there doing some foolishness like that, which is why the prophet said, study, study, study. Then she said, oh, yeah, well, you know, what the theory. She said the theory, the Moors, this is an unconscious sister, don't know jack about the Moors, don't know about her history, don't know about her lineal descent line, don't know law, but she going to say the theory that the Moors is running with is that this is a maritime jurisdiction. What more? Where did Prophet Noble Drew Ali say that? Where is it instructed for you to go out and enforce the Constitution and declare that, hey, this is a maritime jurisdiction? Where is that? But this is what she's saying. She's seeing coming into these meeting rooms called the court. You see? This is what she's saying. Maritime jurisdiction, that is not law, nor, that's not the law, nor is it the law of the Lords. People don't understand the Constitution. That's why, just because it talks about maritime jurisdiction in the American Constitution, you got to read and study it so that you know exactly what it is talking about. And in order for you to really get some great comprehension, good and proper comprehension of the Constitution, you need to go back to 1774 and know why they're talking about maritime and admiralty jurisdiction, because those modern Europeans was getting plucked off of the sea by the Moors that they was calling pirates, all right? So they came to the Sultan of Al-Iraq here in America and asked, can you protect us? And that's why they speak of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction in the Constitution, because we were protecting the modern Europeans so that they can engage in trade on the waters. And that's why they needed a passport, and the passport for the ship is the banner. People need to study. And then you won't go into these foreign jurisdictions talking outside of jurisdiction using the wrong dead-burned word. This is the prophet said, study, study, study. He then said, go out on my word. And then he said, on the hedges and highway. Now, that didn't translate to go out and talk to everybody and annoy the shit out of them. All right? That's not what he means. He means that in your natural and normal day-to-day activity, your energy, if you're studying, is going to touch people as you do your thing, and it will wake them up. If they happen to ask you a question, because you have studied, you can speak in an intelligent tone, and it just might encourage them to go and get some additional information. But this sister, unconscious sister, fallen humanity that she is, because it is from out of her womb that the nations will come. So she is the one that needs to be woken up. But you got unstudied people going into her presence, and she is looking at them as the joke of the town because they are not speaking in the right jurisdiction. They're using all the wrong words, and it appears that they are going and asking foreign, modern Europeans, please, can you acknowledge my status correction? And they're laughing. Their laughter is not what bothers me. What bothers me is that you got people who are not studying, and they're going out into the public And they are making a mockery of birthright and nationality. That's what bothers me. Can't nobody give you or take away your nationality. It comes from your mother. It is in your blood. And really the only person that needs to be clear on that is that individual. That's it. You don't need to go, please, can you please sign my papers? Can you stamp it with your apostille seal? Can you acknowledge me? Come on now. That was never necessary. Never necessary. What is necessary is for you to sit down, study, and be clear for yourself. You don't need nobody to agree or disagree with you. You need to be clear for yourself. And then you can go out on the prophet's word, because you did the study, so you know damn well what the prophet is talking about. You can help and uplift and form humanity. Islam.
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 Now, I just wanted to, I don't know if Ms. could address this, but the email I sent you about the people talking about the sovereignty thing, the sister from the video, she's actually feeding off of those individuals with regard to, you know, how is the right way to be a Moor and how to file papers properly and things like that. So I don't know if that was something that was on the agenda for tonight, but she's feeding off those people, like those people who actually wrote that little article about the sovereign citizen Moors. That's who she's feeding off.
The one you sent the other day?
Yeah, the one I sent the other day. To talk how she's talking, she's feeding off of their information or lack thereof.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're saying she's using their information to form her opinion, which means that she really doesn't know.
Right.
She doesn't. She even in her conversation, she says, well, you know, their theory is, this ain't no damn theory. You know, and I just want to say one last thing, because she mentioned sovereign citizen movement, all right? This is not a sovereign citizen movement. This is about declaring your nationality, declaring meaning to be clear. This is not a sovereign, you know, wait a minute, it is not, nor does it profess in any way, shape, or form to be a part of a modern European alleged sovereignty movement, all right? Really, it's not a sovereignty movement. Ivy Bay Publications has never said this is a sovereignty movement. N.E. Ron, Cujo, Ms., this is not a sovereignty movement. We're not promoting any sovereign movement or a sovereignty movement. And in fact, let me just clarify that word, sovereign movement, okay? Because if the modern Europeans want to have a sovereign movement, then they need to move back to where their ancestors came from and take it up there. Because that don't go down here. They're not Aboriginal, indigenous to this land, so you can't prove your sovereignty here, modern Europeans. You need to take that back where your ancestors came from, and the Moors here need to sit down and study and get clear in their head. Islam.
Well, yeah, but see, you know, yeah, they need to be clear in their head, because you just said it says sovereignty, and we've said it 1,020,000 times. Sovereignty doesn't stand alone. It comes with nationality and tied to the land, as you mentioned. And so since these Europeans who were doing the sovereign citizen movement, they are not tied to the land aboriginally and indigenously. They admittedly so came over on boats and are occupying, well, then they could never be the sovereign of this land. But now they can say what their nationality is like everyone else can, and of course with that they would be considered a national. So then what would they be? They would be a foreign national, and they would not have been letting go of their nationality, no problem. So if you say, oh, well, I'm German, just as an example, but you're domiciling here, all right, well, then your nationality is German, but you definitely are not the sovereign of this land, and that's what this is all about. Those who are the ones that have been coined and branded Negroes, coloreds, and blacks for those same reasons that we've been given, and that's why the prophet mentioned that. Listen, you're not Negroes, coloreds, and blacks. Do a lot of study. Go back to the mindsets of your foremothers and forefathers and figure this out. So it's called a study. But it's interesting because you're right. We were just in class last week, and someone said, that what they're doing when these policy enforcers stop you, they're throwing you in that bag of, oh, you're one of those sovereign citizens, like that. And they set you up to say, and you do say, yeah. And that's where you make your mistake, okay? Because the sovereign citizen movement that they're trying to throw you into is the one that these modern Europeans did, that they have now thrown in the trash because it doesn't hold water. And now here it is, Morris picking it up without study, as you have always said. Now, the thing about, and we're going to get into that, some of the things that this sister observed in the courtroom, because remember, she's an attorney herself, which means she ain't sovereign. I mean, she's not, hasn't claimed her nationality at all. And because being an attorney clearly is an officer of the court. And first obligation is to the court. And it is not a title. It is not a title that Moors could ever take. Hello. It is not a title. Now, prove it to you. Look up improper person, impropria persona in your law dictionary. In, I-N is 3 words. I-N meaning in, propria, which means proper, and persona, which means person. In your proper person, lo and behold, you shall be surprised to find that it clearly says pleads to a court must be done in proper person, because it's done by an attorney. It gives leave, which means jurisdiction, to the court, and that the attorney, it says it right there, that the attorney's first obligation is to the court, not to the quote-unquote client, right? So we know not to use attorneys. So we know not to use attorneys, but then we run around talking like, yeah, I'm an attorney general. Like it's crazy. It's absolutely, yes, well, private attorney general. What is that about? So now then you go into the fact that further proof when you go and you look up X-Rail in regards to your quote-unquote old name, right? There's only 2 people on the planet that can use that position in law, and one would be an attorney general who has information regarding a fiction, a corporation, and the other is anyone who's in their proper person. So it clearly shows you what's up. But back to these things which we're going to get into, the observance. The sister's observance is her observance. You can't take that away, what it is that is being observed. What we're saying is, why are you going into a courtroom or so-called courtroom, like she said, that is not really a courtroom, and giving them a whole dissertation on your history and heritage when the matter is supposed to be about law. And more, you're supposed to know law, and that's what is on trial, if there's a trial, is the law, not you personally. That personal, in other words, once you declare who you are and start being who you are, you don't need to prove that to anyone. You just need to be it. You need to be it. And lastly, and I think as important is that you definitely, I don't know where these people out here are getting, I know they're doing it just to make finance for those who do not study, that you need to ask permission. You're going in there with permission. Now, some are going in there with matter-of-factly, but you're not going in there with matter-of-facts of law. You're going in there with matter of fact, my heritage is matter of fact, but you're not demonstrating that it actually is that, because if you knew that, you would know that you know the law. So this whole thing, they're like, well, if Moors come up and they know the law, we're in trouble. Oh, wait a minute, we're not in trouble. They don't know jack. So the observance of her, which we'll talk about some of the things she observed, but the fact that somebody will go to, okay, you could go to her to ask her what she observes, and she can only tell you what she observes from her perspective, being an attorney, because she's an attorney. She doesn't know anything. Like you said, she's saying this theory. See, the fact to say this theory regarding Moors, that tells you right there she don't know, don't want to know, and it's on the quote-unquote officer of the dead so-called court. So the information that she's offering is not full at all, except for her observance and her opinion, just like when Finch and Flowers and Poverty Law Group gives their opinion of law. That's not law. Islam.
That's right. That's right.
True indeed. True indeed. That is definitely made to tamper with people's perception for sure. Like, because they know better than that. Specifically when they claim, that we're sovereign citizens and try to put us in that category, etc. From observing the video, it's a lot of things that came to mind. And this type of activity, it's good for Moors, conscious or unconscious, to express their sentiment, to say the least. But the thing is, I think what's going on right now is more of a WWF or WWE type of feel with this information. Everybody wants to be the one that, I know what's going on, and to be honest, Moors, you have dirty Moors, clean Moors, etc. I'm not judging, but what I'm saying is this: the information that Moors share and bring, this is world changing. It has a political impact. And with people that have that mentality of, I'm going to prove these people wrong, you see different acts of desperation. And I had to laugh because I'm like, y'all, all right, you already went through this, right? Trying to disprove Moors of Moors. And Moors, pardon me, I don't really do the digital wave like that. But thanks to Cujo for keeping me in tune with some videos, these concepts were already put beyond dispute. And for me, what makes me upset and not really want to even give it any energy, but it's stirred up, you know what I mean? But it was a question posed, you know what I'm saying? Because even when you look at Moors who are under the impression that they're Negro, black, and colored, and, life is good because they work for the state or they work for the Fed, they got a quote-unquote government job, and those the top-paying jobs and all of this here, they're still under that obligation to the foreign corporations called counties, cities, states, etc. So even being in that, they can't really even stop the atrocities that's going on today. And this is not this is a real fact that, you try to compare what Moors are doing or what is and what is not working or whatnot. But at the same time, we've all seen, for the record, visual record, just in the past 2 years alone, how many Moors who thought they were Negroes, colors, blacks, etc., get murdered on camera, and these people are still getting found not guilty, simply walking, and the evidence is beyond dispute that this was murder. You know what I mean? So if they're gonna claim to be black, before they try to pick apart what the Moorish nation is doing, which they can't really because it's folly. It's folly. Look at that. You know what I'm saying? What is the black brand doing for the people, really. You know what I mean? And then it gets to the point where you recognize there's nothing really wrong with the law. It's a foreign party with an agenda that's in play. You know what I mean? This is in play. The whole point of how Moors became branded Negro, black, and colored was to disinherit, you know, because of different things that were going on as far as, you know, people taking advantage of other people's dishonor, et cetera, et cetera. But again, I say that to say this. With all that's going on, what the modern Europeans are doing on American soil right now, I think this is the greatest question. And this is not my question. This is out of the reference and source of law, page 527, pieces on international law, principally selected from English and American courts, edited by James Brown Scott. And the question is this, right? Why should a nation be less jealous of its rights with regard to hostile nations than with hostile individuals? Now, that question right there made me think, you know, all these people trying to, and like you said, everybody in reality is family. Some are in an illusion. They'll come around to that whenever that day comes. But some of them are hell-bent just because Cujo said, oh, we're Moors. You know what I mean? Just because Taj Raz Ana-E said, oh, we're Moors, you know, and this fact, or whoever said it, you know, they have to prove that wrong because they got to be the one with the, you know what I mean? They're not even really law sages, but they want to give that feel to the public. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, put in the work because I hating and debating, but who's bringing their claims to this hostile nation, really? And that wasn't intended to be a rhyme. But who's bringing those arguments to the hostile nation, which is the modern Europeans, killing us, literally. But anyway, so the question again, why should a nation be less jealous of its rights with regard to hostile nations than with hostile individuals? Question, why less jealous when encroached upon a larger scale than when encroached upon a scale truly insignificant? All right, and again, that's a question posed in the law of nations. So people want to tear down their brethren or sister over here or disregard the Moors, and they don't know we really all one. Everybody want to be the right one and everybody else is wrong. Like, let's get to these facts. And then what's scary about it is these same people who are asking questions, these questions have already been put beyond dispute for them. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, what's your intention really? Because what you're asking, the evidence is out there, you know what I mean, that you've been shown beyond dispute, you know what I mean? And for that reason, what I see going on, I don't really respect it because I don't know about anybody, you know, bringing it, their arguments or whatever to benefit the nation at large. You know, it's more or less, let me tear this person down. You know, let me tear these Moors down. And we're just trying to bring you salvation. Now, I say that to say this. I don't care what Moor is affiliated with any institution. There is a huge difference between an American citizen and a United States citizen. I say that based off of the information that, you know, was recently shared with me, that a lot of people, they see the challenge of how much responsibility really is in our hands with, you know, declaring your nationality. They're looking for escape to say that don't work because they're not willing to work or exercise their birthrights. So they just say, oh, that don't work. Like, if you can't lift the weight, it's not that the weight is non-liftable. It's just you might not be able to do it, or you might not, you know, want to do that. That's you, though, but you can't say it can't be done, you know, because, excuse me, it is. But for the most part, you can tell by the language, you know, as soon as they start talking, you're a resident, and these people are residents of this and that state and all of this here, you could clearly understand that they don't understand nationality. And my thing is, like, why keep doing this? Like, you already know that points you're trying to make have already been put beyond dispute. So to ask any incompetent being, you know, or non-qualified being on the subject, as far as different aspects go of it, because like you said, people see what they see. I mean, I've been in the courtroom and seen two Moors demonstrate back to back. One demonstrated horribly and one demonstrated, you know, clear as day, walked out, case dismissed, back to back on the same day. Like, so that's a fact. You know, there are some Moors who are not really demonstrating, but then you have the aspect of what's really going on. Like, even with them, you know, that aspect of prejudice of judge and the bias of the judge, once even she had to say, like, if they found out I was a part of this, it would be biased on me. So they didn't really let me know. How many Moors you think they did that to? First and foremost, those who have had their victories, those who took their losses, whatever, in those situations. Most of the time, it's an aspect of a prejudice of judge, which means that they got your paperwork before you came, and they're in a certain mind state to deny you already, straight point blank. And this is which disqualifies a judge ab initio. You know what I mean? Because this aspect is going on. So, and the reason why it's going on is because they have a national agenda, and it's not American national, not at all. They're foreigners on American land with a home-based national agenda for somebody else's ancestral state. So they're trying to bar that at all costs, and then you have some who are trying to help that at all costs. This is just the negative and positive unity of life, if you will. You know, it exists, but then again, you got to know it when you see it. So I'm going to yield the floor with this. The definition of prejudice of judge. That which disqualifies judge is condition of mind, which sways judgment and renders judge unable to exercise his functions impartially in particular case. It refers to mental attitude or disposition of the judge toward a party to the litigation and not to any views that he may entertain regarding the subject matter involved. And again, that's from the Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, Revised 4th Edition, page 1343, definition of prejudice. You know, I'm not saying that to say, oh, that old spareless argument that, oh, these people are racist type prejudice. Like, no, talking about what it means in law. You know, this disposition, this mental attitude is already disqualifying them from being a judge. You know what I mean? Even if they're not a judge and they're a magistrate claiming to be a judge. You know what I mean? The claim alone, you know, it's a lot to rebut. So I say that to say this, you know, that question still lingers. You know, why should a nation, and let me clarify this too before I yield the floor, because when you talk about attorneys, etc., you also can't leave out the aspect of wardship. And when you look up wardship in the 4th edition Black's Law Dictionary, it talks about their rights having to be guarded jealously. Now, I'm not saying in the common usage of the word jealous that, you know, people should be jealous or hateful or anything like that. But I'm saying if you're going to be on a mission out of jealousy because, you know, these Moors are right over here, so I'm going to try to tear that down. Again, I'm going to leave the floor with this question. Why should a nation be less jealous of its rights with regard to hostile nations than with hostile individuals? Why less jealous when encroached upon a larger scale than when encroached upon a scale truly insignificant? Reference the source of law again. Cases on international law, James Brown Scott, page 527. That's my reflex thoughts on the situation, and with that, I respectively yield the floor.
Islam. We had another situation. I mean, like I said, there's just so much stuff popping off. It's just ridiculous. I don't even know where to begin with this one. We got this sister who she, like Man said, she was making an observation on what she had seen, not what she knows. Why anybody would want to put her in a debate regarding Moors when she doesn't know nothing about, she don't know nothing about the law, she don't know nothing about nationality, she doesn't even know her own lineage line, talk about being in denial of ancestry. She is that. Not throwing stones at the sister. I'm not trying to be, call her out in any kind of name. I'm not doing that because I recognize she's holding humanity. And it is our obligation to wake her up. That's it. So, she said she made an interesting observation. Unfortunately, or fortunately, her observation is correct in some instances. It demonstrates that, people are going into situations or they are doing things and they have not studied. I mean, those are the only reasons why someone would do something that is not designed to uplift fallen humanity in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't speak of law, all right, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary for anyone to say, you're a Moor? You said you're a Moor? Oh, yes, I am in complete agreement. You are a Moor, and that's not necessary. And you know what? And I would even go further. You really got to look at this objectively. Some of us got to get up out of our feelings. All right, we just got to get up out of our feelings. Here's the thing: if you do even a little bit of research, I don't care if you want to say it's the United States of America, the states, or the county. From an international perspective, all right, the United Nations and the world has already looked at the Aboriginal indigenous people, and they said, well, damn, you people are the oldest people on the planet. All right? You are the oldest people on the planet. And it is because of the Aboriginal indigenous people that the rights of indigenous people was even drafted and went into force. All right? The world, through that document, has said, y'all are Moors. The congressional record lets you know, hey, y'all are Moors. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship has said, hey, y'all are Moors. Prophet Muhammad Ali came and said, hey, y'all are Moors. You are not Negro, colored, black, African American, African, or American Ethiopian. He said this. Now, if the prophet done said it to you, he said, hey, that's what you are by blood. And no one can change your national descent line unless their powers are greater than the great God Allah. He said this. So why are you going to employees of, in many cases, a foreign corporation chartered out of Great Britain in them to either to acknowledge you, recognize you, or put some markings on your Great Seal national paperwork from your government, markings from a foreign corporation? Why are you doing that? The only way you could be doing that is because you did not study, eat the profits work, but you running around talking about I'm a more, sending out papers talking about all honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but you didn't even read his work. Not good, not good, not good at all. Then we get this other dissertation that, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this. I don't know where to begin.
You mean the one where it's clear that if you don't have a proper foundation of this information, you can lose your mind and do stupid stuff? Is that the one you're going to talk about?
Yes. And you know what? It's just too matrixy for me to even. I'm like, is this for real? Is this for real? But it was sent with the most unthinkable actions. I mean, it wasn't horrendous unthinkable, but I'm like, okay, here's where a little bit of information sometimes can be dangerous. This is why we have to study. This is why the prophet said, study, study, study. The meantime. Because, look, you don't get this information. We say it all the time. We say, look, when you come into this information, sometimes you may have stuff hanging in the background that you may or may not have been coerced into. But 9 times out of 10, it was done under threat, duress, and coercion. Do a little bit of studying. Don't change nothing. Do a little bit of studying. Take care of old business. Even the prophet said, don't do no, he even talks about old business. Don't take care of that old stuff. Don't stir up no new stuff. Take care of the old stuff. So when you get into this information and you may or may not have agreed to something under the guise of a probation, all of a sudden you come into this information, you don't just throw it away. You don't. I'm a Moor, and because I'm a Moor, you don't have jurisdiction. No, that's wrong jurisdiction right there. Because see, jurisdiction is talking about right word. It is not that they do not have. I mean, to one degree, you're right. They don't have jurisdiction over you because you are a Moor. But why? Why? Why is that true? It is true, first and foremost, it is true because of a lot of things. Number one, the whatever agreement was made was done under threat, duress, and coercion. Number two, what is issue? Is there, number three, is there injured party, right? Number four, what is the law that was violated? And that's just for starters. But, and who is bringing the claim? These are things these are the reasons why there is no jurisdiction. Are you a proper court, properly seated? Who are you? That's what the quo warrant is asking. By whose authority? This is the law. All right? So when you say, you don't have jurisdiction over me, and you just don't show up and say, well, I'm not coming anymore because you don't have any jurisdiction. You have to deal with that issue, which means you have to research the law, and you need to put it in written form. You just can't show up and say, well, I'm not coming anymore because you don't have jurisdiction. Goodbye.
Yeah. If I could say, so we can just put it clearly, because we're not using anybody's name or appellation or anything like that. But the few fits wear it. Those who are listening know many people who have done, as an example. Okay, so you get a little information. You have some degree of understanding. You want to get out of who you are, a little bit of jurisdiction, but you don't really know what that is because you just don't. And as you explained earlier, And so in a case where, say, someone, because they never tell you everything anyway, but you know who they are, they're already on probation for some other stuff, allegedly, that they did or didn't do, but they're on probation. That's the contract that you're talking about, that they need to clear that up based on no delegation of authority, based on a void writ, defective writ, defective writ and void judgment. Right, that's law. Defective writ and void judgments. And if you go on the site, you will see what it means. Any judge, so-called judge, their clerk, their court, who makes a judgment where they had no authority to do so, it is considered void and not as if it never happened. But you need to study that. Defective writs and void judgments. So now you come in, you already got you're on quote-unquote parole or parole contract of some kind. You come into this information, and so now all of a sudden you don't report to parole. You don't put. You just say, they call you up and say, "Yo, what's up? Where are you? Show up here tomorrow or whatever." And you say, "Huh." It's almost like saying, "No, I'm not showing up because you don't have jurisdiction over me. And by the way, don't call me so and so and so. Call me so and so ill or so and so bae. Goodbye. Hang up." Now that's crazy. Then you go to that gives loans, such as a bank, and you sit there, and they call the police for the policy for suspicious behavior because you're sitting in front of the representative saying, "Yeah, I want a loan, but I don't want to fill out all that paperwork because I'm a Moor. I don't need to fill all that." See, that is why, and partly why, I guess, they end up sending you, because you remember you were still under a parole contract, so you're in their jurisdiction until you clear that up first, which would be a great exercise in exercising your rights once you understood what it was to void out that so-called contract that you have. So you didn't do that, though. You just went straight like that. So now they're going to say, we tried to examine him. We think he has a psychosis. Because he's just going on and or she, whoever it is, on and on about how they're sovereign, and we just told you about the sovereign thing. That is the kind of stuff that apparently can happen when you do not study. We know it's overwhelming information to find that you were not the original slaves. We know it's overwhelming to find that you didn't really come over on boats. It's all been a big lie. But you've got to sit down and absorb it until it is a part of you. And you are what you know, because that's all you can be. So, yeah, there's a great example of that. And then you write a letter after they decide that they're going to appeal to pick you up and put you back inside to finish out that time. Because remember, when you're on, I'm saying parole, but is that the right word? Whatever that is. I think it's parole, right?
Correlative, though. They're definitely correlative.
What's the other word they call it, though? It's probation. Probation. I said parole. It is correlative, yes. So you're on probation, and you have this probation contract. So you've got all that going on, but you didn't squash that out. You just said, "No, I'm a Moor. That's it. You don't have jurisdiction." No, that's not how it goes down. So then you're going to write a letter to your quote-unquote Moorish brethren who you think they're holding a Moor captive or whatever like that. I mean, they are, but you know what I mean? And it's clear that if you said these things to in the writing, you said these and did these things, period, well, you have the wrong words. You're not in the right jurisdiction because you haven't studied enough yet to get it. And so that's when you realize that, man, this is overwhelming information. But you know what? As they say, cat's out the bag. Not cat's out the bag. Issue is the issue ain't. That's what time it is right now. So these are why some of these things are happening. And it all boils down to not really studying to be what you know. Islam.
Wow. and I just want to say, you know, in this whole dissertation, it was demonstrated that that clearly there was no studying going on, no studying whatsoever going on. But some things were said, and see, and I'll say this, and then, you know, I want to open up the line shortly thereafter, but I'll say this. I say it a lot of times, you know, too much, sometimes too much talking will, I mean, it will get you into a situation that 9 times out of 10 you could have avoided.
Yeah.
You, less is more.
Is more.
Sure.
Ended. Less is more. And, you know, even in the cover sheet dissertation that was sent, I mean, look, I'm gonna say this, you know, it's a damn good thing that we operate from a lawful position, because everybody was thrown into this cover sheet. Now, you know, coming out of these prisons, coming out of these, any documents coming out of these prisons are perused. They make copies. They read everything. You know, so it's a damn good thing that we operate from a 100% lawful position, because everybody was thrown under the bus. Everybody. You know,
mailing locations and everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's why.
Everything. And I'm like, okay, brother, not only does he talk too much, he don't even know how to protect himself or his family. All right?
Word. Indeed.
You know, all of this came about because this brother got a little bit of information and went wild. Really, went a little bit. Never didn't sit down and study. Didn't ask some questions. Didn't nothing. Just, you know, really what he did was his ego just exploded. All right, and look, this is not an ego thing, because look, and you know, I'm just going to say this. You know, the universe is always checking the people, always. You ain't got to worry about the universe checking you if you are operating from the right premise. Universe can check you all the time, because ain't nothing but good will come, because you're operating from the right premise. But if you are operating from the premise of ego, you're not going to like the check you get.
For sure. And I think again, to add on to that, I think that it's a electric magnetic energy that comes with opening your mind to studying, text studies, etc. You know what I mean? Because it's like once you start getting credible information in your head, you start making correlations that you surprise yourself sometimes, whereas the revelations are just there. Like, you'll know what to do off of instinct. Like, example, like you said, everybody was thrown under the bus on the cover letter. If you're studying, you know what I mean, and you get into a situation in the law of the land, international law, the law of nature, your knowledge and wisdom, if all of that is really in your heart, you know what I mean, you know what to start doing off of instinct. Like, because if, just for example, forbid this for anybody, but if you're locked up, the first person you shouldn't be looking for is anybody outside the jail. You shouldn't be looking for, you know, Anna E. You shouldn't be looking for anybody. Not that they're not going to help, that anyone is not going to help. But if the law is really in your heart and you're locked up, you should be right at the door. If you're in the cell, you should be right at the door as soon as they come to serve trays, demanding to see the warden. You know what I mean? Challenge the validity of your confinement verbally. You know what I mean? Even if you got to speak to an underling to get that process going, do that. You know what I mean? Because it's you got to understand that you're in wardship. So the person liable for the false imprisonment or the escape of a valid prisoner or whatnot is the warden or their direct delegate in that particular case. So if the math of you being locked up doesn't add up, definitely. Not to say don't expect help, but I'm saying expect to help yourself and invest enough knowledge in yourself to at least know, how to verbally, get something going from the inside out. You can't just, and it's not to be belligerent, you know what I mean? No, like, all right, there's people that's supposed to be responsible here. Step one, need to see them for something, you know what I mean? And just go in like that from the beginning. But if you don't have any knowledge, you wouldn't even be inspired to even ask that or do that, you know what I mean? And good, bad, or indifferent, see something start moving because of that. Because a lot of people locked up, they're waiting for their attorney to come save them, because of things that they don't know or positions that they don't know exist. I'm not saying everybody who does it is going to get a favorable situation, but I'm just saying, like, know what it is, know where you're at, who's in charge, like, protect yourself verbally with the right words. That's just my honest suggestion from an intellectual perspective as far as having knowledge and law in your heart and being in any situation. Because if you get kidnapped, there's no nationality card, there's no paperwork, there's no, any access to anything you really want to have in your possession. You know what I mean? Nothing. Everything is cut off. So what do you do from that point? You try your best to get out of the situation lawfully. You know what I mean? And don't wait for, 72, 2 weeks for somebody to even be able to stop what they're doing and respond. Like, just, if you make yourself competent to protect your position, whatever you're doing, and operating from that lawful position, you already know. But that's just my honest advice. And with that, I yield the floor. And also, pardon me, I want to say, even with the dude or the woman who called on the phone making orders, that also is definitely under some circumstances you have to, you might have to make that call or whatnot. But it also goes to show, like, everything should be in writing. They can't argue with the paper; they have to rebut that. And that's just what it boils down to. I just wanted to point that out. So, pardon me, yield the floor.
All right, his mom. Oh man, I'm telling you. I'll say this. I mean, it's just so much to say. There is a lot going on, but this is why the prophet said, and I can't say it enough, and I will be repeating it every chance I can. Study, study, study. This is why it is said to study, 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 because you don't want to make no move. You want to study. You want to know the law, get to know the law, because we don't know the law. There was somebody in the chat room just a minute ago talking about what is jurisdiction. What is jurisdiction? We say it all the time. Okay, jurisdiction means word. So now when you got all these people who are running around talking about, you don't have jurisdiction over me, but I'm a sovereign. Well, yeah, they got jurisdiction over you. If you sit here talking about what does that mean? Sovereign. And then, when they look, the issue here is, okay, and I see this a lot. The issue, it is your nationality, but your nationality is what it is. So the issue is not your nationalities per se. The issue is the law. All right? That's the issue. That's what needs to be discussed. So for anybody to say, okay, you don't have jurisdiction over me because I'm a Moor, that's not addressing the issue. That's not talking about law. You know, and I'll say this, and let's not forget the straw man thing. Everybody, that's not me. The name is in all caps. That's not me. That's the straw man. I'm going to tell you, a lot of what that was said in these two instances, especially this unconscious sister, what it demonstrated is that you got a lot of Moors. They're not studying the Prophet's work. They're not studying the Constitution. All of the multitude of DVDs and in audio recordings that is out there with right and correct information, they're not studying that put out by the Moors. But what they are studying is the crap that the modern European patriots of the sovereign movement is putting out and throwing in the trash one after the other because they tried it, didn't work, put it in the trash. This is what a lot of Moors are studying. The Prophet didn't say, enforce the sovereign movement people's stuff. He didn't say, enforce the sovereign, the patriot, the modern European patriot paperwork. He didn't say, enforce the UCC code. He didn't say, enforce the statutory trust. He said, enforce the Constitution. Why? Because it is the supreme law of the land. Now, look at this wording. Now, because the Prophet, that's why you've got to study the Prophet, because he said a little bit, but if you study it, it's opened up a whole new world. But if you just read it, you miss it. But if you study it, he said it is the supreme law of the land. Now, what that means is even if there is water on large bodies of land, under the water is land. All right? So that means it's the supreme law of planet Earth. How can the American Constitution be the supreme law of planet Earth? Because it's based off of universal law. 7 Articles, 10 Amendments, or Bill of Rights, I should say, 10 Bill of Rights. It's based off of universal law. That's why it is the supreme law of the land. And that's why it is your protector and your repeller. It will repel foolishness away from you if you study it and enforce it. And this is what we need to be studying. This is where we need to be going. This is what we need to be spending our time doing. This is where we need to put our heads into that American Constitution that was written, by the way, by our ancestors to protect us then, now, and way into the future, forever and ever, all right? That was written for us, for everybody, but especially for us. Why don't we take the necessary time and energy to study that the way we studying all of this patriot bullshit?
Oh. Oh, wow. Good question.
That was written by our ancestors.
I know why. The Prophet said he said the nation, they just don't want the law because it's a little too stern. But it is a good question to ask and then create that unity where this thing can be a breakfast fight and be over with by breakfast. That's what has to happen.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and you know what? Right there in, I think it's either chapter 1 or 2. I think it's in 2. It says that, you know, they don't want the light. They don't want the light. The Constitution, what the prophet brought you, that's the light. But you don't want the light. You want the darkness. Yeah, he also said, you know, you're going to have to worship under your own vine and fig tree. Can't be claiming to be a Moor. Can't claim your nationality, and then you spend all your time studying modern European foolishness. Then you want to send out your documents to all these modern Europeans, and great sealed documents, no less, to modern Europeans, talking about, can you stamp it so it looks, so it's accepted, so everybody know you're agreeing to it? I don't need nobody to agree to me. That's why you need to study the prophet. The prophet, he was so clear. He was so clear that he was able to walk into places. He went over, he was able to, look, you think that if the prophet was not studied and clear, that he could go down to Cuba, Havana, and speak the way he spoke? Do you think that if the prophet was not clear, that when he made that move, he put the fear that his works would wake up the whole nation of Aboriginal indigenous people, and all of these corporations would go bankrupt, which led to the what do you call it, the stock market crash? Because he was so clear. And he was on a path to making that happen. With some, you know, dirty Moors, you know, got in the way. And he was like, okay, that's it. I did enough. I can do more on the other side. But he left us. He left us enough to save ourselves. No, he said, I left you enough to save a nation. Now go out and save yourself. But in order to do that, we're going to have to study. We have to stop with all of this foolishness. We have to stop with all of this premature stuff. We have to stop. We got to take the time to study. We got all these little petty things, you know, fluttering around us. More, you know, right to travel issues. Piece of cake if you're studying. Piece of cake. Even some of this child support stuff that a lot of brothers got going on, piece of cake to put to bed if you're studying. All of this old probation stuff because you walked across the street or did something foolish or because you didn't have, you know what, if there's no injured person, no injured party, piece of cake. A little bit of studying. But you got to study. You have to study, and you have to come up with a strategy. You just can't walk in there, you know, flying by the seat of your pants. They will swat you down like a fly.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, we got 22 minutes left to the live internet feed. What that means is at 11:30, the internet feed is going to go down. If you can get in, call 347-945-5899. If you are not able to get in, wait until 12:30. And once the file archives, you can go and download it and listen to the last hour. Well, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to take some calls. If you have a question, press 1 on your telephone, and you will be placed in the queue, and we will take your call. But before I take questions, I just want to let everybody know this is a full week. We got Principles of Nationality today. We got Morse Heritage and History School live near Harlem tomorrow. We got Sons of Allah Thursday. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we have Sisters Standing on Law this Sunday, and we might. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is this Sunday. We might have to push it back to the 31st because we got to get the syllabus out. We need people to have enough time to review it. So what we'll do is Thursday, we will let everybody know if Sisters Standing on Law is going to be pushed back to the 31st. If we forget to make mention of it Thursday, check the MHHS-Eyes Wide Open Facebook page. If we have you on email, we'll send you an email. And also check the RB Bay Publications website. We'll let you know if we're going to push it back to the 31st of January. Other than that, let's open up the lines. Caller 352-281, you are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Maxim.
Islam family, Jonathan Bay, calling from near Alachua County, near Florida.
Islam, Jonathan Bay. Good to hear from you.
Islam. I have to tell you, family, Sister Anna, Roz Mariah, is Raheem, Brother Cujo. I love all y'all, and I mean, I just feel so energetic just from listening to you. It's just giving me so much comfort to hear all the great things that you're saying this evening. I just had two things that I wanted to mention. One is what I call the teen cracker analogy, and that is that when I'm speaking to those who may not be conscious yet, I try to explain to them, if you take a saltine cracker and you hold it up and you look at it, you see it has salt all over it. And you take that and you break it in half. You're going to see you've got salt on one half, salt on the other half. That's my analogy relative to the separation of the continents before the great Atlantic cataclysm. That seems to help them understand a little bit easier how, in fact, we are here just as other aspects of our family are there. That's one aspect of something that seems to be able to, I don't know, drawing those kind of pictures in their mind seem to help them a little bit. But the primary reason I was calling this evening was that, I'm always harping on practicality. My thing is, now that we are, we're at the tail end of the information era and firmly in the application era, I'm always talking about being proactive, looking for the practical functionality of effectuating, such as the Articles of United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, relative to things such as health, more health, education, and well-being. Now, the reason I say that is because, using myself as an example, my medical bills were very high because I had to deal with things dealing with the fees to the doctor as well as medications for prescriptions, $200 a piece and the rest of it. Wherein I recognize that if I look at these articles in the UN Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People, that actually I could utilize my own Moorish credentials to apply for and receive that without using any other vehicles, mechanisms, paperwork, just using those credentials that are mine. And a lot of people think that, well, you have to, just keep this in a speculative type of academic circular dialogue. Well, no, we can actually start applying those things and getting benefit out of them without giving up anything, because they are there for a practical purpose and reason. And what do they say about, use it or lose it. So I'm always trying to get people to look at the practical way that, in fact, if we start trying to utilize these things, effectuate them that are already there for us to put into active practice, it's not that difficult. They'll come back and they'll say, well, we need a birth certificate, or we need this, or we need that, and we need this. Well, those are just the things that they're saying that they need. That's not what they need. What they need is just your information. You can break down and look at those. What I did is on the Morse directory, I put on the call to action page, opened up all of the articles from the rights of indigenous people, and showed how they can be utilized in order to get beginning with health care, because it really covers it all. It covers legislation. It covers financing relative to schools. It talks about, not discriminate for, being more. Everything's addressed there, and it's similar to what you were saying earlier relative to our prophet. I tell people all the time, what don't you understand about he's giving you all you need? You don't have to start adding on, well, he didn't tell us about the UCCs, or, he all of these other things. It's funny when you talk about the Patriots. People talk about the Patriot group, and I say, well, they got an act for you. That's why they wrote that Patriot Act, because they know people be sticking up their heads and trying to go with that sovereignty movement and all of that stuff that doesn't even relate to you. So, bottom line, I try to harp on the fact that I really think that we can be practical these days. We can actually start, functionality-wise, we can start utilizing the United Nations rights of indigenous people, put it in practice, save yourself some money on that, move on, and be a little bit more proactive, other than just,
Right. And I think what you're saying, I think that makes a big difference as far as activity versus passivity. Because, these are, going back to what we was talking about earlier, people are waiting for validation. When we are the only ones that have the power to validate ourselves and how we're moving. They have to respect it on the international level. They have to. So what you're saying as far as activating that, for those who don't understand, I wouldn't say everybody should just run with that idea. But you did some critical thinking and correlations of law. Say, look, this is how I could be active. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't even have made that correlation if you weren't studying already.
Certainly, and absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, go right ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, because, for me, it was a practical matter. The prescription prices are just too high. Having your own private physician and keeping that, especially if you're self-employed, or don't have another plan. And when you have, I'll put it like this: we have right now a situation where the head of their corporation is a ex-Harvard professor, constitutional law. Okay, knows constitutional law probably better than anybody on the planet. Just so happens to position himself into a scenario wherein, in my opinion, he's able to actually place things into effect that are more beneficial for him than any president previously in that particular democratic corporation. Able to sign this into international law, the Accord, and make sure that all of those elements were there that we can start to use, as Aboriginal, Indigenous, Moorish Americans. And if we have that, why not use it? We don't have to just sit around and speculate on, that's almost like we shall overcome someday. Well, overcome now. Go get it. It's yours. So that was pretty much it. I just feel very passionate about that, and I appreciate having an opportunity to put that on the floor, family.
Yeah, you're right about overcoming now. It's like it's actually a hindrance. It's like keep hope alive type thing. Like it can be done. That's why Prophet Jolie said, "Look, this is a breakfast fight," because I really recently got that, because we can do this right now.
Right.
It's being done anyway, but
Yeah, and there's really not what are we waiting for? For the next generation. This is our obligation. This is our. We are animated. We are alive right now. We are the cosmic force on Earth. We are what the divine has placed here. Secondary that we're dealing with. It's up to us. We are the forefathers and foremothers of the future generations.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't just simply sit back and retrospectively always be looking toward the past. We have to start creating some history ourselves.
Yep.
Because history is today. History of today, today will be history. 24 hours later, it's already history. When the beginning of the show started, that's history.
Yep.
So it's all about self, and I think when it said, man, know thyself, seeking ye shall find, this is all.
Yeah.
It's just basically, truly loving yourself enough to try to do for self. He said he came to us because we needed him most. I believe that. We're very, very, very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Yeah.
Word. Thanks for definitely adding that on, bro. For sure.
Thanks, Lon. Well, I appreciate that opportunity to speak passionately upon that, because it's so important. We have so many young people call me these days that are just regurgitating things. Everybody wants it to be their own talk show. They're just talking crazy stuff. I tell them, pump your brakes. Sit on the side of your bed. Think it through. Okay? If you can't bring that to fruition in your mind logically, don't start the journey. Right. All you're doing is shooting a flare, bringing attention to yourself. That's like going out there and flashing your card. You're just confusing people. And like you said, then it just resonates back, and you have excuse my language, but you got one idiot out there making 100 intelligent people who are quiet look like fools. Mm-hmm. In the minds of others, not in reality. Mm-hmm. It's just bad press. And if you don't know what you're talking, I'll put it like this. If you haven't, I don't care if you heard it from somewhere else or if you saw it on the internet, on a video or whatever, if you haven't gone out and researched that for yourself, don't let it come out of your mouth.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Because we can get a lot of good information, and we know after a while, those that we may not have to vet as closely scrutinize, but still, nevertheless, if someone is talking about a particular doctrine or what have you, go ahead and look it up. If they're talking about a particular aspect of how something was applied, don't just take it for the word, If you research it yourself, then it becomes your research.
Yeah. Come to party new what you know.
Right.
Because you can only be what you know.
And that's who you are.
Yeah.
And that's all you are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to take it up to near your classes whenever opportunity avails itself monetarily, because I'm looking so much forward to having the opportunity to go up near Harlem and sit, lurk in the back room a while and soak up some of that good stuff.
How far away are you coming from? What general area?
Well, I'm down in near Florida, a place called Alachua County. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Well, let us know when you're coming.
I definitely will. I've been looking at prices of airfare and, trying to get them go. They got me a little stash that I'm working on right now, and I certainly will do that. I'll try to send an email or something like that, because I certainly would like to make sure that I'm coming at a time. And I hate to go all the way up there and then find, that you all are out of town or something.
Yeah. Okay.
So definitely.
All right. Good thought.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All righty, Mom. All right. Hold on. Caller 336-755. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwestern Maximum.
This is Yusuf Nasir Bey calling from Northwestern Maximum. Hello, family.
Mom.
Peace, Sam.
I just want to, say to anyone out there listening that may be new to this and, not knowing, if it's real or not, all I can say is I have experienced everything from being in a so-called court, being so-called subpoenaed to do this and to do that, and because I know who I am, or my wife knows who she was because she was the one subpoenaed to do this and do that, and because she knows who she is, she knows you don't have any jurisdiction over us, she knew the right words to say to
Islam, are you there?
No.
No, he's still there. Islam, did you mute your phone by accident? 336-755.
And he got like 3 minutes to get back in if he's going to get in.
33755. If you can hear me, hang up and call back in right now.
You know what? He was talking the right words, though. He said his wife went in there and put the law down, because that's exactly right. I know what's going to go down. But
Islam?
That's real. Yes.
There you go.
Are you there?
You dropped out.
Yes, can you hear me?
Now we can. We didn't hear nothing.
I'm sorry about that, family. Again, this is Yusuf Nasir Bey calling from Northwestern Maxim. I just want to add on to anyone that is not sure about whether there are more or not. All I can say is, since I've come into the knowledge, I've been studying now for 2 years. I want to say 3 years, but I'll say 2 because it took me a year to learn how to study. So, I'm not going to say 3 years, but I've been in, I proclaim my nationality now for about 2 years. So, and as far as study, that is so important, because I'm a Moor that I don't travel anywhere without wearing my national headdress. So for me to travel everywhere I go with my national headdress on, I better be studied up, because somebody's going to ask me something.
That's right.
And today I'll travel with my father-in-law. He had a doctor's appointment, so we went to this big hospital here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina State Republic. And it was just full of people everywhere, and all eyes were on me. and I knew I was going to have to demonstrate. And when I first came into the movement, I was so anxious to demonstrate. You know, I just talked so much that I couldn't even catch my breath. Well, now I've learned not to. I don't go out of my way to demonstrate or anything. But when you ask me anything, I'm ready. So today I had tons of people ask me tons of questions, and I must honestly say, to be studied up a little bit and to be able to stand on nationality and articulate it in a way very simple, you know, right to the point, as simple as possible. And what I do, I don't even talk. I'm not long-winded anymore. I give a little scenario of what I'm talking about, and I end it with RV Bay publication. You know, I'm not a teacher. I don't claim to be a teacher, but I love who I am so much. And it just, when you study a little bit, just a little bit, when you start to study just a little bit, you would be surprised the things that are that you know that you'll be able to connect quicker because you have studied something. So when you see something or hear something, it automatically resonates with you. And Allah, He uses, the Creator uses, you know, if you're on the right vibration, you will be used, whether you want to be or not. If you're demonstrating, if you're walking around playing a part as a Moor, be prepared to be used.
Yep.
You know, and I've learned that, you know, everywhere I go, I'm prepared to demonstrate, to articulate, to break it down, and I never venture into a subject that I can't, you know, give fact. You know, if I can't give fact, I don't go there. And a brother was talking to me today, and he kept asking me, do you feel this and do you feel that? And I had to stop him. I said, first of all, sir, I said, it's not about what I feel. What I'm telling you is fact, you know, and then I point out where to get these facts. If you really want to know, this is where you go, rvbaypublications.com. So I just want to say to anybody, I've been in the so-called courtrooms. I've been in, you know, I had policy enforcers ask me, are you sovereign citizen? And I had to break it down to them. And once I broke it down, it was very well received. You know, I mean, it's all about knowing. Yeah. You can't help nobody. You can't help nobody with the wrong information. And my empress was just telling me about just what the topic is. If you don't know what you're talking about, don't go running your mouth to people. You know, the time right now is not the time to be guessing and be throwing what you feel is right out there. If you don't know, just don't do it.
Yeah.
True.
And, you know, I just want to say, you know, thanks for what you guys do. You know, I was listening to Cujo's show earlier, and when I heard the so-called lawyer speaking, it's wonderful to be studied up because right away when she started talking about filing motions and this, that, and the third, I already knew, wait a minute, she's out of order already. I mean, that's just, Moors don't do that. So if she witnessed any Moors doing these things that she says they were doing, what she witnessed were incompetent Moors.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to hold up the line. I just wanted to say, you know, study is so very important to people, you know, and, you know, we got a lot of people out there misleading our people, you know, our own people misleading our people more than anything of what I'm seeing.
Yes.
So,
so much. Yes.
Because I'm learning more and more. I ain't got to worry about the European and what he's doing. All I got to do is be what I know and not what I'm told, and just be.
Yeah, that's right. Because you can only be what you know, right?
That's right.
And that requires studying to know, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And like I said,
and then what does it apply? Then it requires applying what you know, not trying it, applying it.
Right. Because I was with my father-in-law today, and the nurse, she opened the door, and she came, and she looked at my father-in-law, and she looked at me, and she said to him, oh, I see you're here with your frat partner. You know, I guess she thought I was from some kind of fraternity or something. And then I had to explain to her, I said, no, ma'am. I said, this is about nationality, you know, who we are as a people and who we are not. And I said, we are not black people. And she looked at me with this look as if she got it. I mean, all day long, I just people were questioning me. One lady came to me and she said, "Oh, you're a Shriner." And I was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not a Shriner." You know, but it's just you can't rep something and not know what you're repping.
That's right.
You know, and you know, as far as the divinity of this, you know, it's in me so much, you know, where it's just I live and breathe this every day. I mean, I don't go take out the trash without my fez on. I mean, I don't care. I just and that's real. That's real. That's real. I mean, if I could, I just, you know, I love my fez so much. I never even tried wearing a turban yet because I just love my fez. I love what it represents. And ever since I proclaimed my nationality, and I live amongst nothing but Europeans all around me all day, I very seldom really see an Asiatic brother or sister. And I can tell you honestly, I get nothing but the utmost respect from these people.
That's right.
You know, even you know, you can tell, you know, my vibration tells me all the time when I'm around certain people. I can tell the ones who really, you know, they don't like you for whatever they were raised to believe about you or whatever. But even in them, they will not utter a bad word at me. I have yet to experience. I have got crazy looks from brothers and sisters more than, you know, the European.
Mm-hmm,
yeah, they do.
They stole the crown.
Wow. That's
so with that, I'm gonna get off of here and let you guys finish working. I just wanted to add that because
I have a question for you. I thought earlier you were saying that your wife went in and laid down the law with them as well, or did I misunderstand that?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, well, yeah, she was a third party.
You left off at a subpoena.
Yeah, we were in the meeting room, and because we were there, my wife has power of attorney of her grandson because her son is incarcerated. So we were in the meeting rooms as his voice, you know, and they subpoenaed my wife. You know, you report in this courtroom such and such a date with the minor child, da 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 da. And right away, my wife already knew. I'm not, you know, who are they to tell me what to do? So we showed up at the meeting room, and the attorney, the law attorney, lost his mind. He was like, "Judge, she blatantly, Mrs. Bay thinks she can come in here and just ignore the subpoena. I want her arrested. I want her held in contempt." And the judge and the magistrate just looked at him like he was crazy. And she did it twice. She ignored their subpoena 2 times because they know they can't subpoena her, and all you got to do is stand on your square. So what they did the second time we came into the meeting room, you know, because the first time they didn't want her to sign any forms or anything because she was representing herself. They said, "Oh, well, since you're representing yourself, this time you have to come up here and fill out these forms." So right away we knew it's some trickery. So she said, "Oh, sure, no problem." So she goes and fills the forms out and stamps all rights reserved, you know, puts her appellation on it.
Yes.
And when she did it, just as polite and honorable, she did it, and the whole court, you look around and everybody was like choking up. They were like, yeah, because you thought you had some incompetent people here, and she signed it the proper way, and we went on with the day and exercised, you know, our birthright in that courtroom, and they kept trying to acknowledge her as her straw name, and she kept, you know, I kept telling her every time they addressed that, you object. Every time they call you, you know, that person that you are not anymore. And she did that. For the record, on the record, I object. I'm not AKA, I am Issa Bey. Issa Sadia Bey is who I am, and she kept reiterating that anytime they tried to push it, even in the paperwork. You know, I tell anybody, you know, as far as the attorneys talking about the filing motions, we don't file motions, we file affidavits. And I witnessed my wife, we sat in the library from sun up to sundown, using up all their legal paper, printing out documenting stuff up to take to court. We got no documents from them whatsoever. We asked no permission from them whatsoever. We presented the law and we stood on it.
Right. Wonderful.
You know, and we're still learning. You know, I'm every day I learn something new. So that's what you have to do.
But see, that motion thing, we talked about it a little earlier. Some ones won't listen when we say don't put in a motion, because a motion is equivalent to having a corporate meeting and someone saying, our motion, we buy new chairs, and you know you got to get a second in order for it to happen, and if you don't get the second, it's denied. So when you put a motion, it also indicates that they're not courts in that respect, because they are, in fact, operating like corporations. So when she said that they said motion denied, now there's two things going on. Either the Moore really did put in the motion because they're hard-headed. They figure, well, I'm going to listen a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and put in the motion because, you know, that's what they accept, you know, like that kind of half-line stuff. Or the Moore wasn't competent enough to put in the proper affidavit or understand what he was doing and to even allow them, like you just demonstrated. No, I'm not that person. Thanks very much. Sure, I'll sign, stamp my, you know, she knew what she was doing, so she didn't back down when they say, you can't, like a lot of people say, well, they told me that I couldn't sign with all rights reserved. How can they possibly tell you how you're going to sign something? It's impossible.
No, my wife politely pulled out her stamp and they witnessed her. And she stamped it just as politely and signed her autograph, her appellation in red. Boom. And, hey, we commits to going through the ordeal. You know, and like today, I thought it was funny because when my father-in-law was getting his intake done, he couldn't spell his daughter's appellation. So he called me over, and he said, now, tell the lady my daughter's, and I said, oh, yes, ma'am. I said, her appellation is Issa Sadia Bay, and she asked me how to spell it, and I told her how to spell it, and she said, is that a Muslim name? I said, no, it's Moorish American. She said, oh, okay.
There you go.
You know, and just like you said, Mother, it's very simple. It when you know, it simplifies everything, because you don't have to argue law. All you have to do is know it and present it and stand on it.
Yes.
That's it. You don't even have to use too many words. You just present it and stand and, you know, let them fidget and go through what they go through, but you don't.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. It's long. Thank you so much.
I just want to tell anybody out there, if you do this, and you know, it takes heart to do this, because, you know, like, it's a lonely place sometimes, because people are now alienated away from me. I got family members who don't even want to deal with me. I had one of my brothers, my blood brothers, one of my siblings, on social media. I was talking to another sibling, and he said, I don't believe you allow him in your house looking like that. And
why? Because you had your fez on?
Yeah, because I wear my fez, my Moorish garbs, every day, all day long, everywhere I go. I don't care. I wear my stuff. So everywhere I go, I'm garbed up. I'm fezzed up. I don't leave out my house without being that way. So I go visit my brother, and you know, my other brother, he typed online on social media, and he said, yeah, I'm over here with Big Bro, and he said, oh, I don't believe you allow him in your house looking like that. And it made me sad. It hurt me, not me. Yeah. It hurt me that, wow, my baby brother, you know, he's that calcified. That hurt me to know. You know, he's been seeing me demonstrate this long enough now. He should have looked into it. If you can't dispute something if you haven't looked at it. That's what I believe in. If you want to knock something, you can't just knock it because you don't know anything about it. You must look into it.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of that is fear. It's fear. They're because see, it takes strength and courage to step into your your ancestral lineage line and history, and it takes strength and courage, and to walk in it. I mean, it takes strength and courage to step into it, much less walk. And a lot of people, they just don't have the courage to do that. And then you got some who they don't want to put on a fast because it draws too much attention. So what? I mean, hell, you get attention without the fast.
Listen, I went to my son. My son got married last year, and I went to his wedding, and he's not down with this whatsoever. And he married a European. So I go to his wedding, and of course I'm the only one there in my fast. And I'm his best man. And, he's upstairs nervous, and I'm talking to my son, and you ready to do this? And he's like, yeah. And before we go outside, he says to me, he said, Dad, I need you to do me one favor. I said, what is it, son? He said, take that off. I don't want you to wear that. After the ceremony, you can put it back on. But right now, Dad, take it off. And then in there, I knew in front of the so-called European pastor who was doing the ceremony with y'all, you think I was going to remove my fast to satisfy those people? I left my son's wedding. I didn't even stay. I would not remove my fast for him, for his wedding day. I will not remove my fast. I love you, son, and I'll see you later.
There you go. And that right there, my fault. I was just going to say that.
That should have happened with both houses.
And my mother just passed. She just transcended 4 months ago, and before she passed, she was in the hospital, and I was able to tell her, because my mother was a devout Christian, and I broke it down to her, and I told her what was up, and I explained it to her, and she still didn't want to hear it, but just so happened, this is how good Allah is. Her Filipino doctor walks in, and she sees me in my fez. And my mother told me when she got out the hospital, she got me by myself at home, and she said, son, she said, remember the doctor that walked into the room when you were talking? I said, yes, ma'am. She said to my mother, is that your son? My mother said, yes, that's my oldest son. And the Filipino doctor told my mother, I think you should listen to him because he knows what he's talking about. So before my mother passed away, she got confirmation from her doctor, and she told me, she said, son, if this is some truth that I never know anything about, she said, you bring it out.
All right now.
Wow. Woo.
So, yeah. I mean.
You can't turn back.
Oh, no. Listen.
You can't turn back now because Mama just gave you your instructions.
Yes, she did. And when she passed, Cujo was the one who told me, because I was talking to Cujo, and he was the one that told me to read the death chapter at her funeral. And when I read that chapter at her funeral, you should have seen them sweating bullets. The pastor, the deacons, they wanted me to hurry up and get done so bad because they know what time it is.
Yep.
Yep.
And until their time is up, that's what they know.
And as far as this is concerned, I know I'm a soldier. My heart bleeds this. I am so grateful to Noble Drew Ali for bringing this knowledge to our people. And I demonstrate every chance I get. I mean, I'm like one of the brothers was posting on social media, Brother Denim L, when he said we should always keep something, how he said it, keep the mental loaded. Keep it loaded like a gun. So when somebody come at you, you ready to fire.
Mhm. Yeah.
There you go.
So I just try to.
Gotta stay studied up. And studying, a lot of people think, okay, well, I'm study and, oh, I got it, I'm done. No, you just beginning.
And one more thing before I go. My wife is in Arizona right now because we frequent back and forth to Phoenix, Arizona because she has family there. So we've been going back and forth. And I just got off the phone with my wife 2 days ago. Soon as she got off the bus and got into a vehicle, mode of conveyance to go from the bus station to where she was going, immediately they were pulled over. And the policy enforcer said that the reason why I'm pulling y'all over because I got a call that there's some fighting going on in this car, hands flailing or whatever. So to make a long story short, my wife was the only one in the car that proclaimed and declared more. Everybody else in the car had to get out, empty their pockets. My wife was the only one that was sitting in the car. And every time they came to her and she hit them with some law, they left her alone because I was right on the phone when they had them pulled over. And everything she spit at them, they backed up.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. She had the repellent.
She backed them up. When they asked her ID, she backed them up. When they asked her, because she had her turban on, and they asked her, first thing they said, do you speak English? And she says, I'm an American.
Yep.
And it went from there, and everybody else was standing out the car, and she was the only one still sitting in the car, the only one that did not give up any identification because she didn't have to. She wasn't breaking any laws. She's not suspect of breaking any so-called laws. And she stood on her nationality, and they didn't budge her.
Wow. See that? Yeah, our last class was about that, on how you handle at that point of when you stop. You know? When they hinder you, how do you handle that?
Just like last time I was there in Phoenix with her, when we were exchanging the child, picking up the child, and, you know, the other party had the policy enforcers with them. So when we interacted with them to pick the child up, the officer, one of the policy enforcers said to me, oh, yeah, so what, y'all these sovereign citizens? And I looked at him. I said, sovereign citizen? I said, that's an oxymoron. The two words don't even go together. And he said to me, you know what? You're the first person who told me that. You are so right. I said, I know I'm right.
Right, but then you got other more saying, yeah, that's what I am, and that's how they know you don't know, see?
Right. I'm like, no, this is. I've had to let him know this is about nationality and birthright.
Hello.
Wow.
That's
man.
what I'm.
Thank you for your demonstration.
Yes, excellent demonstration. That's what I'm talking about. You need a couple more hundred, you and your mate there. Yeah, this would really be a breakfast fight then.
Yeah. Yeah, when the family is in unison, and as we said before, as society starts with family, so does the authority to govern. So when the mother and the father are on the same accord, there is absolutely no stopping at all, man. And then the children must learn what they learn. And although that may not have occurred in the past generations, it once it does, and it is, and it will. That's why this information is being imparted. Then this thing will be a breakfast fight, and it will be over.
And people are waking up in droves, because what tells me that the people are waking up, because where I domicile at, you see no activity of Moors at all. So if you don't study, if you don't stay plugged in with other places, you will never know how fast this thing is growing. It is growing so fast that's why I gauge it on all the slander I hear. The more slander I hear, I say to myself, yep, it's growing.
Yes. And then that's why the prophet said, listen, you're going to need to have your own newspapers to shovel yourself out from under the avalanche of lies that will be heaped upon Moors. And that's what's happening, and that's what you're witnessing. You're absolutely right.
Yep. So with that, family, I'm going to say Islam, peace and love.
Islam, brother. Islam.
Congratulations, man. So
give our greetings to your wife as well, please.
I sure will. Thanks, Mother.
All right.
Peace.
Excellent. All right, caller 773-785. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest New Mexico. Caller 773-785. All right. Caller 571-225. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation in Northwest New Mexico.
Hello?
This is Mom.
Go ahead. I'm calling out Austin, Texas, better known as used to be known as the territory of Mexico. And
you called Northwest New Mexico, honey, and you just identified two corporations.
Oh, well, yeah. But I just want to say I'm happy to be on the show or whatever. And I was held captive December the 2nd. I went to court. And I noticed the court before I went. And I thought I was making a special appearance. And, by the way, this was about child support. And I went to court, and I didn't have a lawyer, a.k.a. a liar. It was me in Latin, so they kept trying to get me to do business. But I refused. I told them, I said, I'm here on special appearance, and I let my paperwork do the talking, and my girl was with me. And she witnessed everything. And the other side, my baby mama's lawyer was speaking for me, saying I'm here on pro se, and and I told him I didn't consent to that. And I don't even know this man. He's acting as an attorney. So, thus being said, I was asking him certain questions. I was asking the lawyer, the executive administrator, a.k.a. judge, also referee. I was asking him, I said, who is getting the 1099 OID for this case? Then he started to stutter and said, I'm not here to answer your question. And then he said, Mr. West, do you want to get a attorney? And I said, I don't consent to that. No, thank you. And then the proceeding kept going on and on. I just kept asking simple questions. I wasn't rude or anything. So he asked the lawyer, he said, what do you want me to do with this man? He told I want him to do 190 days in jail and a $75,000 fine. So that's being he said, hey, Mr. West, do you want to get an attorney? I'm giving you another chance to get an attorney. I said, I do not consent. So they called up for backup. They came and threw me on the ground. And this was like, I wasn't even on the court docket for this case. The original court docket, I was in another court, so they set me up and took me to this guy's court. So it was a trial by ambush because I already knew too much. So, and I was the only one in there, me and my girlfriend. So they had took me captive, and I went to jail, and gave my little time. And while I was in there, I was educating the brothers what was going on, and they had this little thing to get the jailhouse handbook, and they didn't want to print it out. I was just requesting a question to print it out. So I just asked for certain books. I said, I required a Black's Law Dictionary, the American Jurisprudence, and they got upset. Then the paralegal came out, and the guys in the jail like, man, we never seen nobody had a paralegal come in the history of jail. I said, yeah. I said, you brothers in here, y'all need to start reading. We got dictionaries in here, so just start reading, So thus being said, I did my little 30 days, got out, And this was my first time being held captive because I already beat child support. They was just mad, wanting me to keep doing business, you know, and I told them child support is a service. It's not a law, it's a service, you know, because I got the withdrawal of child support services where the female can go get the papers. And I presented it to them, and they really got mad. I'm like, why are y'all doing that?
But Islam, child support is not a service. Child support is fraud. It's not a service.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, you're right.
Presumption
you're right.
that somebody is the parents of all parties, therefore they're not competent to speak. And then you know there was something else that you said, which I think might not have been a good thing to do. You asked them for the 1099. What is the 1099?
The tax write-off for whoever getting the tax write-off for the case.
And let me ask you that 1099 falls under the Internal Revenue Service. What part of that is law?
What part of that is law? The Internal Revenue Service?
What part of that is law? The 1099 or the policies and procedures of the Internal Revenue Service. What part of that is law?
Oh, by my knowledge, I don't know. That's codes. That's tax codes and stuff. Codes that ain't the law. I mean, it ain't the paying taxes is voluntary.
But see, exactly. But you went into a venue where the law is the repellent, and you started talking about the policies and procedures of another corporation.
But this is what I'm trying to get to. When I was held captive, my cousin and they was looking up on the website, and it says I was arrested for resisting arrest, not child support, and it had car tow. So it was all false because other guys, when my girlfriend was looking up other guys that she dated, they was arrested for child support.
But the thing is, see, you talking about some criminals, all right? You're also talking about people who losing finance. They're losing the ability to generate revenue. So you're saying, okay, these criminals put the incorrect information out into the public. But so did you, kind of. You're talking to them about 1099 when you should have been talking the law.
Oh yeah, I was talking the law. I was also asking them what jurisdiction is this, and they said this is criminal. They said it was criminal, and I asked them. I said, "Well, can a woman or man come forth and say I caused them any harm?" And no one came forth, and he got mad at that. See, You said in the beginning that you said nothing because your documents preceded you. Yeah, but he kept asking me questions. So if you stand as mute, that means you're guilty. You can sit. No, you said that your documents preceded you, and therefore any question that needs to be asked has already been answered in your document. But here's the thing. You started talking about the Internal Revenue Service code, which sets you up. Once you throw that on the table instead of law, they're already going to make the presumption that, okay, you don't know law. Yeah. That's why they kept asking you questions. And if you had stated in your documents that you said you presented the law and you stood by those documents and you stood mute because your documents preceded you, they wouldn't have been able to, get you into further verbal situations.
You fell right into the trap because you kept talking.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah, that's the lesson I learned.
All right. Now, here's what you need to recognize. You learned the lesson from that. Here's what you need to do. Now you got two issues. You got falsification of documents, and if they put this information on the World Wide Web, that's slander. And you also got them for the fraud of child support. So there's three issues. One is a previous issue, and now you got two new issues. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't study, you're not going to be able to present your case, nor are you going to be able to stand on the law. But you got three very good issues.
Yeah, I'm
more information.
Yeah, I was aware of that, but I was just kind of sharing because I'm in the process of doing that, filing a claim on them, and
what kind of thing?
Ma'am, a common law claim. A common law claim about
What's a common law claim?
A common law claim is I claim that they did me wrong, and I'm the aggrieved, and then they're lawbreakers. So I can't make a complaint. I can make a claim. Only they can make complaints. So that's why I come in and make a counterclaim. So, and they're gonna have to challenge it. So if they don't challenge it, then it's true.
Well, no. See, you talking commerce. I can tell by the language you talking commerce. This ain't about commerce. All right? You ain't making a claim. Your constitutionally secured liberties were violated. That's not a claim. That's a fact.
Right, a fact. But at the same time,
and they have published information to substantiate what happened to you. So, you got some studying to do, but I'm going to tell you, you need to study the Constitution. You need to stop studying UCC codes. That's not the supreme law of this land.
Oh, I don't even know the supreme. I don't even know the UCC code. But what I've been studying the Constitution, and I'm aware it's like three constitutions. It's not just one constitution.
No.
It's not.
No.
Because it's a clause in there I read that they can do whatever the hell they want to do to you.
Where's that? Yeah, where's that clause?
Where's that?
I think it's the 8th clause. They say they can do whatever the hell they want to do.
What Constitution are you reading? Because you said there's three. Because there's only one that you're supposed to be enforcing, and that's the supreme law of the land. So whatever else you're talking about is not applicable.
But I'm talking about it.
Go ahead.
I thought in 1781 they changed the word from for to of, and of is a prepositional phrase. Am I correct?
You mean of the United States of America? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that's the whole point. That's the whole point. The Constitution is for the United States of the America. That means that's the foreigners. That's what it was set up for. They're of the American land, but or those who are occupying on your ancestral estate. So that's why it's the United States of America, but it ain't America, bro. It ain't America.
You said you studied the Constitution. Do you recall the preamble?
The preamble? Yes. I read that.
All right. Do you recall it?
Yeah, I recall it.
All right.
But
then,
I also go by the East States so-called state's constitution, because the Texas state constitution says, as well as the Constitution says, no one should ever be in prison for a debt.
Oh, hold on, honey. Hold on. You study the first article of the American Constitution.
The first article of the American Constitution?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. If you studied the first article of the American Constitution, then you ought to know that Moors cannot be members of any of the Union states. So those constitutions can't apply to you.
Right. Right. And
although it says that their constitutions must be in harmony with the Supreme Constitution, it does say that. Whether they are or whether they aren't is nothing that we can lean upon or stand on, because it never applied. Their Constitution does not apply to a Moor anyway. So you can't go in using institutions that they have that, although it's supposed to be in harmony, it's clear. If you don't know the Supreme Constitution, how can you determine whether it is in harmony or not? That's number one. And although it's supposed to be, if it isn't, but it doesn't matter to you, because all you go by is the supreme law of the land, which is the American National Constitution that was written for them to follow, and for you as a they to enforce.
Right.
Why are you enforcing it, bro? So that you're not molested by them.
Oh, I did enforce it.
So we want to make real clear. We want to make real clear, and definitely make it clear to you and anyone listening. There are not three constitutions.
There's only one.
There's only one. The supreme law.
Okay. Well, I study R.V. Bay publications, and I study the modern European stuff. I study both stuff. You know what I'm saying? I put it together.
But the modern European stuff doesn't apply to you either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm aware of that, because that's why I got held captive.
Yeah, but what we're saying is that they got good research on what is it? They've researched some very good case laws and stuff, but the manner in which they can apply it or can apply it cannot and will not ever be the way in which you do, because this is not their land. They are the occupiers. They are from the Union States. They are from those who came over on boats. That's them. They're not aboriginal and indigenous. Sometimes they'll try to claim they're indigenous, and there's rights for everybody, of course, but they're not the aboriginal indigenous people. You are. They're occupying on your ancestral estate. So you cannot apply. They can't apply, quote unquote, sovereignty at all, which is why they threw this stuff in the trash, and why a lot of Moors are pulling it out and trying to apply the modern their stuff, which doesn't work for Moors, and what they were trying to apply for themselves don't work for them, because they're not the nationals here. They're not. They would have to claim they would have to say what their nationality is, and it won't be American.
Right.
And it won't be more. Right. So you can't apply their stuff in this thing at all. I mean, I think I'm saying this right. I know I'm saying this right. You can't apply their stuff to your position.
Right.
They can't apply your stuff to their position.
Right.
Right. Well, yeah. Like I was saying about child support, it is a service, and it's fraud. And it's unconstitutional.
And it's human trafficking.
Explain to me how it's a service. How is it a service?
How's a service? Well, if you go down to your local child support office, they have an application. So an application means you're begging for a service.
No.
An application, just like you go fill out for a job, you want to get a service. I mean, I have. If you check out this guy named Old Man Osiris, he breaks it down. It's federal. It's a part of the executive.
Check it out. I don't need
executive
to check
branch
it out. I'll tell you why. All right. In the American Constitution, Article 9 and 10, it says, if it's not in the Constitution, it is reserved to the people.
Well, yeah, you're right. And you had the advantage because you a woman and I'm a male, been melanated in my skin, and they have an army and they got guns. So, you know what I'm saying? It's different. I'm in the South. I mean, I'm in the deep South.
No, that is no.
I'm in the trenches.
Brother, we're talking. No. Listen, we're talking law here. What you just said is no excuse for the law because all of that is also addressed in the Constitution if we as a people would enforce it collectively. And when you say, oh, yeah, you're a male, but you came from, I mean, we're women. You came from a woman. So therefore, this is your inheritance. You're the steward of it, okay? Don't separate this female, the sister, the mother from the son. They cannot be separated. That's why it's called Mason and Masonic orders, telling the secret. Never separate. I know, but I'm saying what you're giving is not an excuse for the law that you are supposed to be enforcing. And you,
I'm not giving an excuse.
No, it is. It is.
I mean, I even talked to police. They asked me was I a constitutionalist when they stopped me for wasting my time.
What's a
I don't know. A constitution is someone that knows the Constitution, right?
But they're obligated. They take an oath to the Constitution. You should be asking them that.
Yeah, I know, but down here they don't care about that.
There ain't no down here. See, this is the problem. We can't keep separating that. The problem you have there is the same problem we have everywhere. Period. So
there are brothers in that area where you are right now who have repelled the whole child support fraud with law. Documents.
Well, here in Texas?
Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah,
we're telling you yes.
Okay, all right. You know,
not here in Texas. I'm out here. I'm in Austin. And if you know the geographic
you're not in Austin. You're in the corporation. That's a corporation. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, you know what I'm talking about, the corporation.
Well,
you know what I'm talking about.
If you say, let me ask you a question. When they ask you, do you tell them, like, for instance, you live, that's your answer, that you live in Austin. When you do that on any paperwork, application, whatever you read, if you say, I live at so-and-so in Austin, Texas, they already got you in jurisdiction of a corporation because you cannot live in Austin, Texas because Austin, Texas is a corporation. It's not the land. You have to claim your ancestral estate, North America. Take mail and care of wherever you want to take mail, wherever you can get mail. But you do not and cannot say, yeah, I'm here in Texas, and this is how they do it in Texas. The supreme law of the land is for the entire land. So you can't do that, and you can't say you live in Texas. That's called wrong words, and that's how they get jurisdiction, because jurisdiction means right words. Example, to simplify it. If they said to you, we're giving you this ticket because you were speeding on 5th Street. You were speeding on 5th Street in the jurisdiction of the city of Austin, Texas. If you don't rebut that by saying, I was traveling on my ancestral estate / national domicile, North America. If you don't say that, you didn't say the right words, and you didn't take what they did is they claimed territorial jurisdiction by saying that, and you failed to rebut it and claim it back to what it really is, which means that you trump their jurisdiction territorial right there.
Right, but I didn't.
Listen, we got a brother that was traveling in, I believe it was the state of Maryland. They stopped, they hindered him, and all of a sudden he put in his paperwork, and they said to him, all right, we don't want you to ever be, they dismissed everything, and they said, but the agreement is that you'll never be driving in Maryland again. You know what he said? He said, all right. You know why he said all right? Because he knew he was never driving in the state of Maryland. So
he
they
was traveling, right?
Hold on a minute. They stopped him a second time because he frequents down there. Guess what they did on the second time? They noised everything, didn't even bother it. But he never.
Okay,
he ain't driving in Texas. He ain't driving in Maryland. You don't live in Texas. That's called jurisdiction matters. There's profound jurisdiction.
I'm aware of that, but
it's just letting you know, man, that
I know I'm aware of that. And
you gotta apply it like that.
Yeah, I'm aware. I was just speaking because I mean, I know I'm in the territory and occupying the territory, but I just want to comment on that lawyer lady on that y'all was talking about. She was talking about filing motions and all that stuff because of the Moors. Going there, she was talking about the Moors incompetent and just silly stuff because I've been learning about attorneys and lawyers and how they do these for the court and how you use their words when you start using their words, emotion, because the court is emotional. When you file a motion, it's emotional. People do things from their feelings up in there,
you know
so that's why.
You're talking about some modern European breaking down foolishness. Courts move by motion because that's how corporations move. And if you've never worked in a corporate arena, and most of the people, they're trusting that you've never sat in on a corporate meeting, you don't know this. But these corporations, because that's not a court, that's a corporation that's taking up space in a building called a court. They can only talk in terms of a corporation. That's why they have to ask for a motion to do anything. Is this a motion to do something? Do I get a second? Now, there'll probably be somebody in that room that nods their head that you didn't pay attention to that gave the second to deny the motion. Because that's how corporations move. And we got two other callers and we got a little bit of time, but
let me just say something. They don't need a second person in the room in these so-called meeting rooms they call court, because if the Moor puts in the motion, he's doing the first. He's putting in a motion. And the magistrate is the one who doesn't second it, because the Moor first did by putting in the motion, and then the magistrate denies it because he has the discretion to do so, because it's a motion.
That's right.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Right. I will make a suggestion, okay? Because I feel that your intent is honorable, but what is confusing you is that you study arbitration and these modern Europeans, and you can't do that. You can't do that, not up front. You have to study RVA publications, which is going to give you the right and exact law, and that has to become a part of you. And you can't really wallow around in all of this other crap that's out there until you got your foundation solid, because if you don't, they're going to knock you off your square. Trust and believe, because you're having a casual conversation with us and you're using all wrong words, which means that you're not in a proper jurisdiction. So, and you demonstrated that you demonstrated a little bit of a conversation that you had with them, and you used the wrong words, which means that they got you on jurisdiction. So I'm going to say that because I believe it sounds like your intent is honorable. And let me just say one other thing. What's happening with you near Texas, it ain't special to you. It's happening in Mississippi, Tennessee, near the Tennessee, Mississippi, California, Florida, all of these areas, Georgia. We get call-ins from all across the nation who's going through the same situation as you. And as long as they stand on the supreme law of this land, they always have, that law will repel these vampires who are trying to suck you of your energy. It always repels them. But you got to be stopped. You got to be soft, because if you're not, they will find a vein, they will open up a vein, and they will drain you of all your energy.
Well, I want to add on one thing, too. The fact that, there are more out there who are being progressive with the law. The fact that when people hear it, like, all due respect, the first thing they do is start denying. Nah, not out here, because they might be moving a certain way. The other Moors are moving in a different way, but the right way. Everybody's trying to get to the same thing, so all roads lead back to the right path. But being on different parts of the path, you don't see different things that happen. And just because you might not be in that immediate circle of knowledge doesn't mean it's not true. So I say that to say, like, even when you first said that, you know what I mean? The first thing that happened was a denial, like, no, not out here. But, yeah, like, it's a polarity in everything, The main thing that gets publicized is just negative situations. But, I just wanted to point that out.
They never publicize the good stuff. They never publicize that.
Oh, yeah, that's their intent.
Right. That's why you may not know. That's why you may not know what's happening, but it is right where you are.
Yeah.
They just got a net. They got a net out there trying to catch all that they can who put themselves in jurisdiction with the wrong words. That's all they're doing is this their last go round, and they're trying to catch as many as they can now. That's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, it's 26 after. We got 4 minutes left. I'm gonna see if I can take one more call. Thank you so much for your call, brother. I'm gonna take one more caller. Islam, caller 916-524. You're live on the air. In Northwest Mexico.
Islam. My name is MHHS-Eyes from the Sacramento.
Yes, I.
Did he just say nigga?
Yes, MHHS-Eyes.
Nanegas, Negas,
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I want to say, first and foremost, appreciate you and all your work in this conference call, my first one being on here. Thank you so much for your due diligence and your time and your activeness. And I'll make it short. I appreciate you answering the young man previous, because there were some questions there about, the courts, marriage certificates, and trying to get those, marriage certificates, and then if they do break up or whatever, one parent is a national, the other one's not, how that functions with custody and all that stuff. That's something interesting to look at, as well as I am a middle school English teacher. I've been teaching and been a vice principal at different, at school and stuff, and I went back into the classroom because I can't do the fraudulent system. And I was wondering if a education school district has jurisdiction to take away your rights to media press within the email usage of that school function, within the functionality of that school. Are they allowed to suppress you? And so there's a lot of issues there. I just wanted to say hello. And
they're corporations. They're corporations also, and that's their email.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their email. They're corporations. There's nothing that says you have to have your children in those schools.
Right. I was talking about as an employee. Let me just, long story short, the Elk Grove Unified School District got slapped by the Civil Rights Office for improperly identifying kids with 4,800